The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council shone like a star made of glass and arrogance. Hundreds of alien leaders sat in their golden seats, glowing eyes fixed on a massive holographic map that floated above the center chamber. In the heart of that projection was a small blue planet labeled Earth. Around it, red icons blinked, the incoming fleets of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. The room echoed with laughter. Deep and cold, the counselors mocked, whispered, and sneered, their voices blending into a storm of pride. They called humanity weak, untested, and reckless. One alien with silver skin and long antennae rose from his seat, his voice filled with cruel amusement. 3 hours, he said proudly. 3 hours is all the humans will last before their cities burn. Laughter followed his words like thunder rolling across the chamber. Another council member, a reptilian warlord with emerald scales, slammed his tail against the floor. Their ships are toys, their weapons primitive, he hissed. Our fleets will crush their defenses before their suns set. More laughter. Louder this time, the Galactic Council was united. Not in peace, not in justice, but in mockery. The war had not even begun, and they already believed it was over. But far from the grand lights of the council hall, hidden beneath the quiet oceans of Earth, humanity waited in silence. In a black chamber deep under the Pacific Ocean, Admiral Kane stood before a cold, humming console. The walls around him trembled slightly as massive machines came alive beneath the surface. He stared at the holographic map of the solar system. His face calm, his eyes sharp. He had seen the broadcasts. He had heard the alien laughter, but his lips did not move. He only said one quiet sentence, they laugh now. But soon they will understand. Above Earth, in low orbit, a single human satellite watched the stars. Its sensors picked up the first signals of alien approach. Waves of warships stretching across space like a tidal flood. The alien commanders transmitted open messages to Earth, calling them to surrender. Their words were filled with pity and arrogance. They promised mercy if humans gave up their weapons. They called Earth's armies children with sticks, but no reply came from Earth. Only static, only silence in the council hall. The laughter continued. The alien leader, a tall being with crystalline wings, raised a goblet of glowing liquid and shouted, "To victory before dinner!" The council cheered. The galaxy's mightiest empires believed this battle would be a show, a demonstration of their eternal power, but the humans had been preparing. For decades, maybe centuries, they had built in secret, under the oceans, beneath the deserts, inside hollow mountains and deep orbiting moons. They built ships that did not exist on any official record, engines that did not shine on any scanner, weapons that bent light, energy, and silence itself. Admiral Kane watched as the systems came online one by one. Massive screens displayed the activation sequence of Project Titan. Nuclear hearts ignited beneath the water, turning black oceans into glowing firestorms for a moment. Colossal hangar doors opened, and from the deep shadows began to rise. Gigantic hulls surfaced, dripping with seawater and steam. Each ship larger than any alien dreadnought. Black as night, silent as death. Kane's officers stood at attention. Young and old, men and women, no one spoke, no one smiled. Every face carried the same thought. This was not a war of conquest. It was survival. Kane turned to them and said quietly, "They think we are weak. Let's show them how wrong they are." His voice was calm but filled with something heavy, a weight of history, of defiance, of humanity itself. Across the galaxy, the alien fleets drew closer. Thousands of ships aligned, their weapons ready to strike Earth from the council chamber. The alien leaders watched the live feeds, drinking and celebrating as if it were a festival. They broadcast speeches of victory before a single shot had been fired. The arrogance was blinding. They never imagined the prey could fight back. Back on Earth, deep in the control room, Admiral Kane whispered to his AI companion, "Status of Titan-class dreadnoughts?" The machine replied in a calm tone, "All 7 vessels operational. Reactors at full capacity." Kane nodded slowly, his hand hovering over a single red switch. He looked up at the screen, where alien fleets shimmered like stars in formation. Then without hesitation he gave the order. Phase Protocol Titan. In that moment, deep beneath the waves, the oceans began to boil. The Earth itself seemed to tremble. From the Pacific to the Atlantic, massive shadows rose like sea monsters from legend, each one glowing with golden energy veins running along its surface. The humans had awoken their sleeping giants in the distant void. Alien ships picked up strange energy readings. Their scanners flashed with alerts they couldn't understand. Unidentified power surge from planet surface, a commander said. But before anyone could analyze it, the readings vanished. The humans had cloaked everything. The laughter in the council hall began to fade, replaced by quiet confusion. Why has the human signal changed? One leader asked, another replied nervously, "It's gone dark." And for the first time, a thin thread of fear entered their proud voices. Because even across the stars, they could sense something was wrong. Admiral Kane looked at his crew and said the words that would be remembered for centuries. "Prepare for contact." He turned toward the main screen. Watching the alien fleets advance, his eyes were cold, his voice steady. "They think we're the prey," he whispered. "Let's remind them what hunters look like." The final scene fades with the deep rumble of awakening engines. The alien council's laughter echoes faintly, now sounding more like a warning. And the story closes the first part with one final image. Humanity, silent and ready beneath the rising storm. The ocean was dark and endless, yet beneath its calm waves, the heart of humanity was waking deep below the Pacific. Metal walls vibrated with low thunder and glowing lights pulsed like veins of fire. Inside the command center, Admiral Kane stood tall, surrounded by a dozen officers staring at the screens in disbelief. They were witnessing something that had not happened in 1,000 years. Earth itself rising to defend its children. A deep mechanical hum filled the chamber. Shaking the floor, giant reactors hidden under miles of water began to turn. Old systems came alive. Systems that had slept since the end of the Great Silence. Red warning lights flashed everywhere. But this time it wasn't danger, it was rebirth. Kane spoke quietly, his voice calm but heavy. "Activate Titan Fleet," he said. The operator nodded, pressing the sequence that no one had ever dared to touch. The entire command floor glowed blue as the massive launch network engaged. Far above them, in the deep trenches of the Pacific, the sleeping giants stirred one by one. Enormous hangar doors opened, letting waves crash and swirl like storms under the black water. Shadows began to move, shadows larger than cities. They were the Titan-class dreadnoughts built in secret, powered by cores that could split moons. Their hulls shimmered with stealth plating. Their railguns gleamed like lightning trapped in steel. Each ship bore a name written in silent defiance. Resolute, Vengeance, Dawnfire, Iron Will, Guardian, Nemesis, and Eternal. The earth itself seemed to breathe as they rose. Whales scattered. The ocean rippled like a heartbeat. When the first dreadnought broke the surface, the night sky turned gold. Steam exploded upward, and lightning danced along the clouds. From orbit, it looked like volcanoes erupting across the oceans. The human fleet had awakened, and the galaxy was about to remember fear. Kane's second in command, Commander Riley, stared at the screen with wide eyes. "Sir," she whispered, "we're outnumbered 100 to 1. Kane didn't blink, his voice steady as steel. "Numbers mean nothing if the enemy doesn't understand what we've built." He turned to the communication officer. "Open the private channel, silent transmission." Earth-wide, across underground bunkers, moon bases, and orbital stations, a single encrypted message echoed. It was the voice of Admiral Kane, calm, steady, and filled with quiet power. "This is not a war for land or wealth," he said. "This is for survival, for dignity, for every life they thought too small to matter. Humanity does not bow. Humanity does not beg. Activate every defense system. Prepare the final line." The message spread like wildfire, reaching old soldiers, young engineers, miners, and pilots hidden across the colonies. They all knew the code, Phase Titan, the signal that humanity's final plan had begun. In Mars orbit, hidden cannons emerged from the red dust, forming a defensive ring. From the dark side of the moon, rail platforms lifted. Aiming toward the incoming alien fleets, humanity's silence was over. In the Galactic Council chamber, confusion replaced laughter. "Why has the human planet gone dark?" One alien general demanded. "Why are our sensors blind?" Another shouted. Holograms flickered as they struggled to track Earth's energy signatures. Every time they scanned, the readings shifted or disappeared. It was as if the planet itself had become invisible. They didn't know that human engineers had created a gravitic distortion field, bending their own detection systems, sir. Multiple signals emerging from the Pacific, an alien scout reported to his fleet commander. "Probably atmospheric interference," the commander replied lazily, sipping from his glass. But then, one by one, the interference points multiplied. 7 enormous readings appeared where there should have been empty water. And then, the sea exploded. Cameras captured the moment as the first Titan dreadnought broke through the surface. Alien officers watched in silence as something impossible rose from the depths. It was bigger than their flagships, darker than space, and glowing with energy that didn't exist on their charts. Its surface pulsed with golden veins, and along its spine, hundreds of railgun towers turned in perfect synchronization. For a moment, the galaxy stopped laughing. Kane watched the launch from the central command screen. His reflection glowed faintly in the light of the dreadnought's energy fields. He spoke softly, almost like a prayer. "We asked for peace, and they gave us war. Now they will learn what humans become when they are cornered." As the Titan fleet aligned in low orbit, the sky above Earth shimmered with plasma trails. Each ship linked through an AI network called Erebus, capable of processing 1 billion tactical moves in a second. Alien fleets were still hours away. But Kane knew, in war, seconds were eternity. He turned to Commander Riley. "Engage stealth protocols." "Yes, sir," she said, fingers flying across the console. The fleet vanished from radar. The sky went silent again. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council, panic began to ripple through the ranks. "Energy readings from Sol are off the charts," shouted one technician. "Impossible, their technology can't," the leader began. But his voice stopped as a feed came online. The hologram displayed Earth, surrounded by a golden aura, with 7 shadows orbiting above it, each shadow large enough to eclipse the stars behind it. "Are those human ships?" A voice whispered. No one answered. In the control room, Admiral Kane gave his final order for the day. "All units hold position, weapons cold, systems hot." He looked one last time at the glowing hologram of the alien armada approaching. "They think this will be a war," he said quietly. "But what's coming for them is judgment." The last sound in the command chamber was the deep vibration of engines reaching full power, and somewhere far across the galaxy, the Council's laughter finally died, replaced by silence, a silence that marked the moment humanity's awakening began. The storm had not yet arrived, but its shadow already covered the stars. The void between planets was silent, a calm sea before a storm. In that silence, thousands of alien warships advanced toward Earth, their engines glowing like dying stars. Each vessel carried weapons powerful enough to destroy a moon, and the commanders believed victory was already theirs. They called it the Cleansing Campaign, a quick strike to erase humanity from the stars. From his hidden command center, Admiral Kane watched the alien formation through a transparent display. His fleet, 7 Titan-class dreadnoughts, waited in the darkness of space, invisible to every sensor around him. The crew held their breath as they saw the alien ships crossing Jupiter's orbit. They were so many that their signal noise echoed across all frequencies. "A wall of arrogance moving toward Earth, sir. Alien fleet ETA in 27 minutes, reported Commander Riley. Kane nodded slowly, his face calm but his eyes sharp as blades. "Hold position, let them come closer," he said quietly. In the silence that followed, only the hum of power cores could be heard. Each Titan ship floated like a mountain made of metal and silence. The lead alien commander, Lord Tazek, sat on his throne of crystal inside the flagship Radiant Dominion. He smiled as he watched Earth on the hologram before him. "Such a fragile world," he said. "One sweep of our plasma cannons and it will burn." His second officer laughed. "Our council will be pleased, my lord. The humans will learn their place." None of them knew they were already being watched. In orbit near Saturn, the Titan Vengeance drifted behind a ring of ice, its hull completely cloaked. Inside, Captain Lyra adjusted her neural interface, linking her mind to the dreadnought's targeting systems. "Target acquisition locked," she whispered. Her voice was calm, but her heart thundered like war drums. "Permission to engage when ready, Admiral," she said through the encrypted link. Kane's reply came with a single word: "Wait." Seconds stretched into minutes. Alien ships entered Earth's outer defense perimeter, destroying old satellites and probes. They broadcast a final message. "This is your last chance, humans. Surrender or be erased." Kane smiled faintly and replied with silence. The aliens mistook it for fear. Then everything changed in a heartbeat. The stars blinked, space shimmered, and behind the alien fleet, 7 shadows appeared out of nothing. The Titans had jumped directly behind enemy lines using a microfold drive, technology the aliens believed impossible. Before the enemy could react, Vengeance fired. A single railgun shot streaked across the void, bright and silent. It pierced through 3 alien cruisers in a straight line, turning them into dust before their alarms could sound. "Contact! Rear assault!" shouted an alien officer. But by the time they turned, another human shot tore through their command formation. Plasma reactors exploded, lighting the darkness with fire. Alien communication channels flooded with screams and static. Admiral Kane stood watching the chaos unfold. "Execute Formation Delta 9, he ordered. The Titan fleet moved like a pack of predators. Each ship perfectly synchronized. Alien ships tried to turn, but their sensors showed nothing. Their targeting systems couldn't lock onto the human dreadnoughts. Human cloaking tech confused their computers. What they saw were ghosts. When they fired, they hit only empty space. Meanwhile, the Titans moved unseen, striking and vanishing like lightning. Within 5 minutes, 1/3 of the alien fleet was gone. Lord Tazek's face twisted in shock. "What kind of weapons are these?" he shouted. His technicians couldn't answer. Their screens filled with static. "Unknown energy output, my lord. Unknown trajectory. Unknown origin." Nothing they had made sense anymore. On the Titan Eternal, a young technician whispered, "Sir, they still don't know where we are." Kane's lips curved into a grim smile. "Good," he said, "let them fear the dark." He raised his hand. "Fire everything!" All 7 dreadnoughts unleashed their railguns at once. The void became a storm of light and thunder. Alien ships exploded like stars dying, their debris scattering across the black. From the Galactic Council chamber, the live broadcast flickered. What had started as a spectacle of alien triumph was now a nightmare of their destruction. Leaders watched in silence as their fleets vanished from the tactical map, one after another. No one spoke. The laughter that once filled the hall had turned into disbelief and horror. Back in space, smoke and plasma clouds drifted among the wreckage. Only a handful of alien ships remained, retreating desperately toward the edge of the system. "Should we pursue?" asked Commander Riley. Kane stared at the glowing debris and said quietly, "No, let them run. Fear will speak louder than death." He turned toward the communication array. "Transmit message to the Council," he ordered. The message contained only 5 words. "Humanity has entered the arena." The signal reached the Galactic Hall within minutes. Every alien leader stared at the short transmission in silence. Then the holographic display flickered again, showing the face of Admiral Kane behind him. The burning remains of the alien fleet drifted in space. His voice was calm, steady, unshaken. "You predicted our defeat and ours," he said. "The battle lasted 7 minutes. Now, we will decide how long your empires last." The feed ended. The chamber remained silent. No one dared to speak because in that moment, every species in the galaxy realized the truth. They had laughed at humanity, but now they feared them, and far above Earth, the Titan fleet drifted quietly among the stars, not as survivors but as legends reborn. The era of human weakness had ended, and the universe would never forget the name of the species that turned laughter into terror. Space was no longer silent. It roared with the ghosts of dying ships and burning worlds. The battlefield near Earth had turned into a graveyard of shattered alien metal. But Admiral Kane knew this was only the beginning. He stood on the bridge of Titan Resolute, watching the wreckage drift slowly through the void. His eyes glowed faintly in the reflection of the burning debris. "Report," he said, calm but firm. Commander Riley scanned the feed, her fingers moving fast across the holo controls. 70% of the enemy fleet destroyed. "The rest in full retreat, Admiral," she said. Kane nodded. "Track their escape routes. Predict their regroup points." "Yes, sir," she answered. The air inside the command room felt heavy, not from fear but from the weight of power. Outside the viewing deck, the 7 Titan dreadnoughts formed a line across the dark. Their hulls glowed with golden veins, their railguns cooling after the storm. The light from Earth shimmered across their surfaces, making them look alive. They were not just ships, and they were humanity's final answer. In the Galactic Council's war chamber, chaos ruled. Dozens of alien generals shouted over one another, their faces filled with disbelief and rage. "How did they build ships like that?" screamed one. "They were supposed to be a primitive species," another shouted. The council leader, an ancient being with crystal skin, slammed his staff onto the floor. "Enough!" he roared, his voice echoing across the chamber. "Regroup the remaining fleets, strike again before they recover." But even as he spoke, a messenger burst into the room, trembling. "My lord," the messenger said, "they're not waiting to recover. The humans are moving. What? The council leader whispered, his voice cracking like glass. The messenger pointed at the live hologram of the Orion sector. The human fleet was already in hyperspace, heading straight for the alien stronghold. Admiral Kane's face was calm as the stars stretched into streaks around him. The Titan fleet moved faster than light, guided by the AI network Erebus. No living species had ever traveled this fast without burning their engines. But humanity had built these ships with a secret power. Fusion cores born from captured black hole fragments. They didn't just move through space, they tore through it. Kane looked out into the streaking light and whispered, "They thought this was defense. But this is retaliation." In the alien stronghold orbiting Vega Prime, alarms screamed through every corridor. Officers ran to their stations, shouting orders in panic. "We detect 7 unidentified signatures inbound," one cried. "Impossible," another replied. "No ship can jump into our shielded space." Then, in an instant, space itself cracked open. The human dreadnoughts appeared, not from hyperspace lanes, but from pure gravitational distortion. The alien commander barely had time to breathe before the first railgun fired. The shockwave was so strong it shattered the orbital defense rings in seconds. Missiles screamed through the void, guided by AI precision. Alien fighters swarmed like insects, but their weapons couldn't lock onto the cloaked titans. Within minutes, Vega Prime's entire defense grid collapsed. The capital's holographic broadcast showed the unbelievable. The human fleet hovering above their world like gods. Admiral Kane appeared on their global channel, his hologram towering over their cities. He spoke slowly, clearly, in the same calm tone that had frozen the council. "You entered our home uninvited," he said. "You called us weak. You called us primitive. Now look at your skies." The camera showed the 7 titans orbiting their planet, railguns aimed downward. "Consider this mercy," Kane said, "because next time, there will be none." The aliens tried to respond, but no signal could reach their people. Human AI had already taken control of their communications network. In less than an hour, Vega Prime surrendered. The council received the report in stunned silence. The strongest fortress in the galaxy had fallen without a single human casualty. Back on Resolute, Commander Riley turned to the Admiral. "Sir, their main fleet is regrouping near the Vega Belt, forming a new defense line," she said. Kane nodded slowly. "Good. Let them gather." He turned to the tactical officer. "Deploy the Shadow Wing." The officer hesitated. "Sir, are you sure? Those prototypes were never tested?" Kane's voice was steady. "We don't test in war, we prove." Moments later, black capsules detached from the Titans and vanished into the void. They were invisible drones armed with nanite warheads, humanity's newest creation. They entered the alien fleet silently, undetected, and when they detonated, they didn't explode. They erased. Entire battleships dissolved into nothing. Their atoms scattered across the stars. In the council chamber, silence once again fell. One alien whispered. "They are not fighting to survive anymore," another replied, trembling. "No, they are fighting to end us." Across the galaxy, fear spread faster than light. Every empire, every colony, every world began to whisper the same phrase. "Do not anger the humans." Admiral Kane watched the enemy's last signal fade from the screen. He stood still for a long moment, then he spoke softly. "This is the turning point," he said. "They thought we were the hunted, but now they will know. The hunters have awakened." The stars outside shimmered like witnesses to history. For the first time in galactic memory, the universe belonged to humanity. And the council, once proud and untouchable, finally understood what their arrogance had created. They had mocked the wrong species, and now, the price would echo through eternity. The stars were quiet again, too quiet. The smoke of battle had drifted away, leaving only the bones of broken ships floating in darkness. For the first time in galactic history, the council world stopped sending transmissions. No messages, no commands, no laughter. Only silence that reached from one end of the galaxy to the other. In the command chamber of Titan Resolute, Admiral Kane stood alone, watching the feed of ruined planets and dead fleets. His reflection glimmered faintly on the glass. A man made of shadows and decisions, Commander Riley entered slowly, her boots echoing on the steel floor. "Sir," she said softly, "we have received no retaliation orders from the council." Kane didn't answer. His eyes remained fixed on the endless void outside. "Sir," she tried again, "the galaxy has gone dark. He finally turned, his expression unreadable. "That's not peace," he said quietly. "That's fear." Across thousands of worlds, alien civilizations hid in silence. Markets closed, shipyards froze, war academies went silent. The once proud empires now whispered in fear of human retaliation. No one dared send scouts toward Sol. No one dared say the word Earth. It became a superstition, a forbidden name. Children were told bedtime stories about the humans, not as heroes, but as warnings. Never mock the quiet ones, they said, for they are the ones who wait. In the council's capital world, the grand hall was empty. The crystal walls that once shimmered with arrogance now stood cracked and hollow. The council leader sat alone on his throne, staring at the burned holograms of his fallen fleets around him. Silence pressed like weight. No advisors, no guards, just the echo of what used to be power. He whispered to himself, "How did we not see it?" His voice was lost in the air. They asked for peace, and we gave them scorn. They begged for unity, and we gave them mockery. Now they've taken everything. Back on Earth, cities glowed under calm skies. For the first time in centuries, there was no fear of invasion, no shadow of alien threat. People walked freely, but their faces carried the memory of what had been lost. Every nation remembered the cost of survival. Unity forged in despair. Admiral Kane stood in front of the memorial wall, carved deep beneath the Pacific Command Base. Thousands of names shimmered in blue light. He traced his fingers over one name, his brother's, a soldier who had died in the first alien strike years ago. His voice trembled, though his eyes stayed steady. "This wasn't victory," he said. "It was a warning answered." In orbit, the Titan fleet floated like sentinels guarding a sleeping world. Their engines silent, their guns still warm from the last battle. AI systems remained awake, scanning every signal in the galaxy. Erebus, the main network AI, spoke to Kane through the intercom. "Admiral, no external threats detected. Galaxy communication volume down 98%. Kane exhaled slowly. "They've learned to fear silence." "Yes, Admiral," Erebus replied. "But fear breeds something else." Kane raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" The AI paused. "Desperation, far away, in a hidden moon base of the surviving empires. Alien leaders gathered in darkness. They spoke in hushed tones, afraid even their walls could hear them. "We cannot live like this," one said. "We must understand their power." Another shook his head violently. "You don't understand. They broke the laws of physics. Their ships bend light itself." A third leaned forward, eyes glowing with defiance. "Then we must find out how." No one realized that Erebus had already hacked into their meeting. Listening quietly, it transmitted the data to Kane within seconds. Kane looked at the report, his face unmoved. "Even now," he murmured, "they're trying to prepare for another war." He closed the file and said softly, "Then let them study. It won't save them." A week passed, and no alien fleet returned. No invasion, no message of surrender, only endless quiet. But humanity knew the truth. Silence was not peace. It was the sound before another storm. Still, for now, they had earned this calm. On every human world, people celebrated survival. Children looked up at the night sky, not with fear, but with pride. For the first time, the galaxy looked small. In a quiet moment aboard the Resolute, Kane stood on the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, and Earth glowed behind him like a blue jewel. Commander Riley joined him, standing silently at his side. "Do you think they'll ever come back?" she asked. Kane's voice was low. "Maybe," he said, "but next time. It won't last minutes. It'll end before they blink." She nodded slowly. The weight of those words sinking in, the two stood there, watching the horizon of the galaxy that once mocked them. Now it bowed to their silence across the stars. Every alien ruler stared at the night in fear of a sound. The hum of a human railgun, the echo of an awakening world. The universe had changed forever, and in that quiet darkness one truth remained unshaken. Humanity had become the silence between stars, and silence was the loudest sound of all. The silence that once covered the stars was finally broken. But it wasn't laughter or threats this time. It was the sound of surrender. Messages began to pour into human space, trembling voices of alien leaders begging for mercy. They offered peace, tribute, even technology. Anything to avoid extinction, and still Admiral Kane gave no reply. In the war room beneath the Pacific, the lights were dim. the air thick with tension. The holographic map of the galaxy glowed above the central table, showing thousands of systems now under human control. Red dots marked the ruins of old empires. Blue lights marked liberated colonies. Commander Riley walked beside Kane. "Scanning the reports, sir," she said softly. "Half the Council worlds have fallen into chaos. Trade networks are gone, supply lines broken. Their fleets won't recover for decades." Kane's eyes stayed fixed on the map. "That's what arrogance builds," he said quietly. "A kingdom made of glass, Erebus." The AI network activated with a soft hum. "Admiral," it said in its calm digital tone. "A transmission request from the remaining council members." Kane turned slowly. "Put it through." The hologram flickered, and the image of the surviving council appeared, smaller now, weaker, afraid. Their leader, once proud and glittering, now looked pale and cracked. "Admiral Kane," he began, his voice shaking slightly. "We wish to end this war. Permanently." Kane didn't speak, only stared, letting the silence do the talking. The alien continued nervously. "Our empires are shattered, our people terrified, please. Humanity has proven its strength. Must this continue?" Kane's expression didn't change. "Continue?" he said slowly, his voice cold as ice. "You declared this war." "You laughed at us," he said, stepping closer to the hologram, his words heavy like thunder. "You predicted our defeat before the first shot was fired." He leaned forward, his face half lit by the holographic glow. "Now tell me, Counselor, how does it feel to be wrong?" The alien tried to reply, but his voice broke. Kane raised a hand, and the hologram froze. "Erebus," he said quietly. "Open global broadcast to all species." "Yes." "Admiral," the AI replied seconds later. The image of Admiral Kane appeared across the galaxy, on every planet. Every ship, every screen. Billions watched in silence as his face filled their skies. "This is Admiral Kane of the Terran Alliance," he began. "You called us primitive. You called us savage. You took our children, burned our colonies, and mocked our right to exist." His voice grew deeper, each word like a hammer striking the hearts of those listening. "You wanted to teach us our place, and we learned. We learned how to fight, how to adapt, how to rise from fire and rebuild from ashes." He paused, staring directly into the camera. "Now, it's your turn to learn." The broadcast cut to live feeds of the Titan fleet appearing in multiple star systems. Each ship emerging from the dark, silent and unstoppable. Entire planets watched as human dreadnoughts filled their skies. But instead of firing, the ships released beacons, golden lights that fell like stars. When they touched the ground, they projected holographic symbols, the emblem of the Terran Alliance. No threats, no destruction, only a message that echoed everywhere. Peace will exist, under humanity's watch. In the council chamber, the alien leaders bowed their heads. They knew the war was over, not by treaty, but by understanding. Kane had turned their fear into obedience, their arrogance into respect. And yet he showed restraint. He didn't wipe them out. He gave them a chance to rebuild. Under the shadow of Earth's protection, Commander Riley stepped beside him. "You could have destroyed them all," she said softly. Kane's eyes were distant. "Then we'd be no different from them." He walked toward the viewport, looking out at the glowing curve of Earth far below. "Let them live," he said. "Let them remember." Weeks later, the reckoning accords were signed. Every remaining empire bowed to the Terran Alliance. Humanity became the guardian of peace across the stars. Trade returned, but now every route passed through Earth's permission. Warships were dismantled, replaced by defense fleets under human command. The galaxy was reborn, but this time it spoke in one voice. Kane stood on the podium during the signing ceremony. Reporters and envoys from hundreds of species filled the vast chamber. As he looked over them, he said only one sentence. "We do not rule, we remember." The words echoed like an oath, and for the first time in galactic history, the crowd applauded humanity, yet even in victory, Kane's gaze remained cold and thoughtful. He knew peace built on fear was fragile. He knew someday, somewhere, another species would test humanity again, but for now, he allowed himself a small, quiet smile, the kind only a soldier gives when the storm finally ends. In the depths of space, the Titan fleet drifted silently, their lights dim but steady, their guns cold but ready. They were no longer weapons, they were guardians, and through them, humanity's promise echoed across the cosmos. "We do not conquer, We endure. The galaxy had learned what it meant to provoke Earth, and in the silence that followed, one truth became eternal. When the stars themselves feared to whisper, humanity had already spoken years past, and the scars of war slowly faded from the stars. But the story of what happened, the rise of Earth, the fall of the Council, the voice of Admiral Kane, became legend. Children across countless worlds grew up hearing whispers of the humans. Some told the tale in fear, others in awe, but all with reverence. The galaxy rebuilt under the quiet shadow of the Terran Alliance. Trade flourished again, new colonies emerged, and peace became routine. Yet the silence of the humans still lingered in every corridor of power. No one dared raise a weapon without remembering the golden light of the Titan fleet, because even though they were silent now, everyone knew humanity was watching. In the rebuilt Galactic Hall, the walls were no longer made of crystal but of steel and glass. At the center stood a statue, a human figure carved from meteor stone. The man's face was calm, his hands clasped behind his back. Beneath the statue were engraved words that had become sacred. We asked for peace, but we were ready for war. It was said that every ambassador who entered the chamber paused before those words, not out of duty, but out of memory. On the anniversary of the war's end, a great gathering was held. Delegates from hundreds of species filled the hall. Among them was a young alien cadet with silver skin and bright eyes. He stood before the statue, staring up at the human figure in wonder. Beside him, an old mentor whispered softly, "That man changed everything." The cadet looked up curiously. Who was he? The mentor smiled sadly. Admiral Kane, the man who made the galaxy listen, far away, on Earth's moon, where the Titan fleet rested in silent orbit. The dreadnought Resolute was now a museum. Visitors walked through its corridors, seeing the control decks, the weapons, the memorial walls. Holograms told stories of the battles, not to glorify destruction, but to teach resilience. One corner of the ship was kept exactly as Kane left it. His command chair, his logbook, and the final message he had ever recorded. When visitors pressed play, a calm voice filled the air. "If you are hearing this," Kane's voice said, "then peace has held. Remember that peace is not weakness. It is the courage to hold your fire even when your enemy trembles before you. Humanity did not conquer the stars to rule them, but to protect them. Let our silence remind them, mercy can be mightier than fear." Generations later, human presence spread across the galaxy not as conquerors, but as builders. They terraformed barren worlds, shared medicine and technology. Old enemies became allies, learning that humanity's strength was not just in war. It was in rebuilding what others destroyed. The name Earth became a symbol of balance, of a civilization that could fight like gods, yet choose to heal like guardians every few years. A council meeting would begin the same way, a moment of silence for those who fell in the reckoning, and then a phrase simple but eternal: "Let us never make Earth angry again." The room would echo with quiet agreement. On a distant colony near Alpha Centauri, an academy trained new generations of peacekeepers. Among the cadets was a young human girl named Arya Kane. Her eyes were bright and curious, and when someone asked about her name, she smiled. "He was my ancestor," she said softly, "the man who gave the stars their silence." Every day she studied not just warfare, but diplomacy, compassion, and leadership, because her family carried not a legacy of conquest, but of balance. At the end of her graduation, she visited the statue of her ancestor on the Galactic Hall world. As she looked up at the words carved beneath it, she whispered, "Grandfather, your silence still echoes," and in that quiet moment, the stars above seemed to shimmer brighter, as if the universe itself remembered. For the galaxy had learned a timeless truth. Empires rise and fall, but respect endures. And the story of humanity, from mocked to mighty, from hunted to guardian, lived forever in every world that looked up at the night sky. When alien children asked, "Who are the humans?" their parents would answer, "They are the ones who turned fear into peace." And so, the legacy of Earth became the rhythm of the galaxy, a story told not through battle cries but through whispers, a tale of a species that refused to die, and in doing so, taught the stars how to live. For even when their ships slept and their weapons rusted, the universe still remembered the echo of their creed. Humanity does not vanish, humanity endures. And somewhere in the dark sea of space, the old Titans still drifted silently, their golden hulls reflecting the starlight like ancient guardians of the night, waiting, watching, and protecting the peace their creator had promised. As the final words of Admiral Kane lingered in the air like a prayer, "When they forget the silence, we will remind them,"